World Spaceflight News Special Report.
The first of those is called the approach ellipsoid and is an imaginary shape measuring 4 kilometers by 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers, essentially a large 3-dimensional oval around the space station. You see that larger sphere there on your screen. And before Dragon is given the go to move inside that approach ellipsoid, it needs to be on what we call a 24-hour safe trajectory. Essentially, this just means in the very unlikely event that Dragon were to lose all control of its thrusters, it would be at least 24 hours before its orbital path would take it inside that approach ellipsoid. Now, once Dragon arrives at 400 meters below space station, it will be at waypoint 0, which is the first checkpoint during our approach. The vehicle can hold at 400 meters or continue on if all systems check out in order to move to waypoint 1. The team will then do a go, no-go for Dragon to move inside the keep-out sphere, which is another zone that consists of an imaginary sphere around the space station, this one with a radius of 200 meters. Today, the CRS-26 cargo Dragon is heading to the zenith or space-facing port of the Harmony module of space station. On board this Dragon vehicle is over 7,700 pounds of cargo, 7,777 to be exact. That includes 2,341 pounds of crew supplies, over 2,000 pounds of science investigations, 55 pounds of spacewalk equipment, 653 pounds of vehicle hardware, and 26 pounds of computer resources. Notably launching on board CRS-26 are 2 IROSAs or ISS rollout solar arrays, which will be installed during future spacewalks to augment the space station's power capabilities.
Houston Station on 2 in step 3. Block Bravo is looking good. We're seeing 206 on the range in the corridor.
Copy.
And that was the voice of NASA astronaut Nicole Mann calling down from the International Space Station. Everything continuing to look good on her end as well. We're now less than 200 meters away from the International Space Station.
Houston Station on 2, we have reviewed steps 5 and 6, and we are ready for docking.
Copy, sounds good.
And you were seeing some city lights and are continuing to see some city lights pass from below as the International Space Station flies 257 statute miles over China. Now that we are inside the keep-out sphere, which is that 200-meter radius around the International Space Station, the next milestone we'll be tracking is waypoint 2, which is when Dragon will be only 20 meters away from the International Space Station. This is where Dragon makes sure it's perfectly aligned with the Node 2 Zenith port. Now less than 160 meters away from the International Space Station, Dragon continuing to close in at a rate of 0.3 meters per second. And we are continuing to proceed towards docking this morning. Dragon now 119 meters away from the International Space Station and closing in at a rate of 0.3 meters per second. Everything continuing to go smoothly and as expected this morning. We were targeting a docking at 6:30 a.m. Central, but we do expect that to be just a few minutes later than anticipated. The next milestone we're tracking is waypoint 2 arrival, which will be about 5 minutes from now. Waypoint 2 is only 20 meters away from the International Space Station, and this is a good place to hold for lighting if there might be more preferable conditions. And this is also where Dragon makes sure it's perfectly aligned with the Node 2 Zenith port. About 5 minutes after leaving Waypoint 2, Dragon will make contact with its new home, the International Space Station. Now less than 100 meters separating CRS-26 from the International Space Station. Continuing to hear good callouts, Dragon configured for docking, everything looking as expected this morning. Dragon now less than 80 meters away from the space station. We are looking ahead to its arrival at Waypoint 2, which is only 20 meters from the space station. We do expect that to occur about 3 minutes from now. At this time, NASA astronauts Josh Cassada and Nicole Mann are inside the cupola at the RPOP, or Rendezvous Proximity Operations Panel, and monitoring today's approach. And we did just get confirmation that the poll to proceed towards docking is all green, everything looking good across the board. Dragon is now inside the 50-meter point, continuing to close in slow and steady at 0.3 meters per second. Starting to be able to make out more details of the zenith or space-facing port of Harmony, where Dragon is proceeding towards docking, now 34 meters only separating Dragon from space station. Again, everything looking good as Dragon continues its approach, now 23 meters away from the International Space Station. And as expected, as Dragon nears the International Space Station, its approach will slow down even further. It now is within the 20-meter mark, now moving at a range rate of only 0.01 meters per second. Dragon is now at Waypoint 2, that 20-meter mark.
Houston Station on 2, we see RDOT at 0 at 19.8 meters.
Copy. And station on 2, Dragon is resuming approach and is go for docking. Monitor for steps 5 and 6 in 1.102.
Copy, we're monitoring in steps 5 and 6, and we see approach to docking port mode, range decreasing, and block Bravo looks good.
Copy.
And everything looking good, continuing the approach towards docking this morning. Now moving past Waypoint 2. So again, Dragon is now resuming approach and is go for docking. Dragon is now 15 meters away from the International Space Station, closing in at a rate of 0.08 meters per second. Everything continuing to look good this morning. And you are seeing some small thruster firing as Dragon nears the 10-meter range. We are in a brief expected handover between satellites, but we do expect to regain communication and video views here shortly. We don't have views from the space station right now, but we are getting data and receiving the reports from the crew as well, proceeding towards a contact here shortly. 3 meters in closing. We did hear a call for CHOP, or crew hands-off period.
Crew hands off point.
1 meter in closing.
Dragon contact and soft capture complete.
And we do have a confirmed soft capture at 6:39 a.m. Central, 7:39 a.m. Eastern, while the International Space Station was flying over the Pacific Ocean.